What if you had already been chosen by an angel and never knew it? It may seem far from reality, but what if this choice had already happened in the silence of the night, while you were fast asleep, without even imagining it? Have you ever had a dream so intense, so real, that when you woke up you felt like something out of the ordinary had happened? Those dreams that leave invisible marks, that touch your heart and make you ask yourself, what was that feeling? Many people believe that dreams are just reflections of the mind. But what if, in fact, some of them are encounters? Encounters with spiritual messages, signs from beings of light that have been with us since birth. Dreams about angels happen more often than you might think, and they almost always come when the soul is more vulnerable, more open, more sensitive to the invisible. And the strangest thing is that most people simply ignore them. Have you ever experienced this? A dream that was different from all the others, that left you with the feeling that someone was trying to protect you or warn you about something. During sleep, the noise of the world ceases. The rush, the distractions, the external voices, everything becomes silent. It is in this sacred space that the angels approach. They do not invade, they do not frighten, they do not impose themselves. They simply manifest themselves in subtle ways, through a light that shines in the dark, through words that echo in the heart, or through mysterious symbols that repeat themselves night after night. What you are about to discover now may surprise you, because perhaps you have already been visited, guided, protected, and never knew it. Many people only realize that something different has happened when they start to notice the coincidences that repeat themselves. Their intuition becomes sharper. A dangerous path is avoided without any logical explanation. An unexpected choice leads to a solution that seemed impossible. And in many of these cases, it all starts with a dream. A simple dream that is actually a message sent by someone who is silently by our side, our guardian angel. Have you ever woken up with tears in your eyes and didn't know why? Have you ever felt like you were being watched, but not with fear but with comfort, like you were being cared for? These are some of the most common signs that something spiritual may have happened during the night. And no, you're not alone. Many people report encounters with figures of light, winged beings, and sweet voices that speak directly to the soul. And almost always, these reports are accompanied by a deep sense of peace and protection. Stay with me until the end, because in this video we will delve deep into this invisible universe that reveals itself when we close our eyes. Together, we will understand the signs and dreams, the role of angels in these experiences, and the reason why, perhaps, you have been chosen without even realizing it. What if that dream you thought was just imagination is actually the first call of a greater mission? Maybe you've never told anyone about that dream that left a deep impression on you. Maybe you've kept it to yourself, afraid of sounding crazy or pure fantasy. But what if I told you that your experience might be exactly what someone needs to hear right now? If this topic resonates with you, if any part of this conversation touched something deep inside you, leave a comment below to tell us what you felt. It could be a memory, a question, or just a feeling that lingered in the air. This helps not only to keep this exchange alive, but also to create a space where other people can recognize themselves, feel welcomed, and understand that they are not alone. Every comment you leave, every like you give, helps this message reach further. It ensures that the content doesn't get lost amidst so many voices, and instead, reaches those who really need to hear it. And if you feel like you want to continue this journey, that you want to understand more about the signs, the dreams, and this invisible presence that guides us, subscribe to the channel. That way, you'll be closer to all of this. Because this journey is made by many hands, and your participation here is what keeps this light burning. Sometimes, it's a simple story in the comments, or a video that appears at the right moment that awakens the soul. And maybe that's why you're here now, because, in some way, you too have been called to pay attention to the signs, those that arrive slowly, during sleep, and plant a seed that changes everything. And when we start to notice these signs, something inside us also starts to change. Because understanding why angels speak to us through dreams can completely transform the way you see your nights, and most importantly, your own inner journey. There is a reason why these messages do not arrive while we are awake, caught up in the rush, distractions, and avalanche of stimuli that fills every second of our day. During sleep, everything slows down, the body rests, but the soul awakens. It is as if the barriers that normally separate us from the invisible begin to slowly dissolve, making room for something greater to manifest. In this lighter, more receptive state, our mind stops resisting, it stops rationalizing, it opens, like a silent window in a peaceful place, and that is exactly where the angels can enter, not by force but by affinity, because their energy does not shout, it flows, it guides, it reveals hidden truths that, often, in the waking world, we are not ready to see. Have you ever noticed how certain dreams seem to have a life of their own? As if they weren't just jumbled thoughts, but messages with a beginning, middle, and end. Sometimes they come with a silent urgency, like a warning. Other times, they come as a hug, a comfort, a presence that can't be explained in words. And the strangest thing is that you won't always understand it right away. Many spiritual interventions happen without us noticing right away. They manifest themselves in decisions that change course subtly, in coincidences that only make sense days or weeks later, or in that sudden intuition that makes you avoid a path without knowing exactly why. This happens because angels are not concerned with convincing. They are here to protect, guide, and show possibilities. And they use dreams as a sacred channel, far from the noise of the physical world. There, behind the scenes of our consciousness, where time does not work the same way, and answers can come in the form of symbols, images, or sensations. The impact of these messages may not be immediate, but it accumulates, it grows. And when you look back, you realize that something in you is no longer the same. Dreaming is like going through a portal. It is leaving logic behind and diving into the language of the soul. It is in this space that revelations arise. And what may seem like just a strange sequence of images often carries a direction, a sign, a choice. Because, unlike what many people think, angels do not appear only in extreme moments. They are always there, waiting for the right moment to act, and that moment almost always happens when we are sleeping. Some say that dreams are a mirror of the mind. But what if they are a reflection of our connection with the divine? What if, while you dream, your spirit is more present than ever, receiving instructions, protection, and even deliverances that will only make sense later? The truth is that spirituality does not obey the logic of our daily lives. It moves in a more subtle field, where everything is vibration, intention, and harmony. And the more you recognize this, the clearer it becomes that angels do not need to appear with trumpets or visible miracles to act. Sometimes, all they need is a moment of silence, an open heart, a night of sleep in which your soul is ready to listen. And perhaps that is why so many reports of dreams with messages, lights, voices, symbols have something in common. The person wakes up different. They can't really explain why, but they feel it. You feel that something has touched your essence. You feel that you have been seen, heard, guided. Even if the mind insists on forgetting or doubting, the body keeps it. The spiritual memory remains, sometimes hidden, until at some point it resurfaces like an old memory that suddenly fits together. There is wisdom behind this process. Because if all the messages came explicitly, we might be scared, or simply ignore them. But when they come through sleep, they come at the right pace, in the right way. With respect for our time to understand, this is one of the greatest proofs that we are not alone. We are guided with love, even when we do not know the way. Comment here. That makes sense to me. I want to know if any of this resonated with you. Because sometimes, your story, your memory, can turn on the light that someone else needs at that very moment. Now, let me show you how to recognize when a dream is just the fruit of the unconscious, and when it carries a clear sign of spiritual intervention. Because when we begin to realize that dreams can be more than just disconnected images, what opens up before us is a hidden truth, a spiritual reality that has been silently working behind the scenes of our lives. There are stories that leave no doubt that there is something bigger at work. And these stories do not come from different or special people. They come from ordinary people, like you and me. People who were living their routines normally, until, one random night, something changed. Something came to them in the dream, and, the next day, nothing was the same. One such story is about Mariana, a nurse from the interior of Minas Gerais. She said that one night she dreamed that she was driving alone on a dark road, with a thick fog covering everything. In the dream, she heard an insistent but calm voice, telling her not to take that road. She woke up scared, with the dream still fresh in her mind, but she tried to ignore it. That was the route she took every day to get to work. Even so, something in her hesitated, an anguish in her chest, a feeling of alert that would not go away. In the end, she decided to take a longer route, out of instinct or out of obedience to something she could not explain. On the evening news, she discovered that, at that same time, a truck had lost control on the very stretch of road where she usually drove, causing a serious accident. No part of the dream seemed symbolic or random. It was direct, clear, as if someone wanted, at all costs, to prevent the worst. And the most impressive thing, she said that the voice she heard in the dream was unfamiliar, but it gave her such great peace that it seemed like someone who loved her deeply. It was at that point that she began to understand that perhaps, since always, she had been accompanied by an invisible but real presence. A presence that day saved her life without her even realizing where the protection came from. Another powerful story is that of Andre, a young man who was about to close a deal that promised to transform his financial life. Everything seemed perfect. The promises, the numbers, the compliments, everything was seductive. But, days before signing the papers, he started having the same recurring dream. In it, he saw himself trapped in a room with glass walls. Outside, everyone was smiling at him, but he felt like he was being watched like a piece on display. It was a feeling of imprisonment disguised as freedom. In the third similar dream, he woke up with goosebumps all over his body, his heart racing, and his intuition screaming that something was wrong. He decided to investigate further. With some resistance, he looked for more information about the company and discovered that the bigness was involved in a financial fraud scheme. Many had already fallen. The contract he was about to sign would have destroyed not only his savings, but also the trust he had built over years. When he told me this story, he said something that I have not forgotten. There was nothing logical that made me doubt that business. If I had followed reason alone, I would have gone ahead. But that dream, that repetition, was like a code being sent by someone who saw what I could not see. It saved me. It is at this point that we realize that angels do not only warn us about accidents or visible tragedies. They also protect us from choices that could imprison us, from decisions that, if made impulsively, can have a profound impact on our trajectory. These stories are real, and even though they may seem like a coincidence to outsiders, those who experience them know that they are not. The transformation that comes afterward is undeniable. It is not just about avoiding danger. It is about realizing that there is constant care taking place behind the veil, a care that respects our free will, but that patiently tries to show us that there is another way. And this type of revelation is not forgotten, because it marks the soul in a way that no rational explanation can erase. It's interesting how, after experiences like this, your mindset changes. You start to see your own dreams with more respect and more listening. You start to notice patterns, symbols, and sensations that previously went unnoticed. And that's when everything starts to fall into place. Because the more attention you pay to these signs, the clearer the spiritual language becomes. It's not about becoming obsessed, trying to decipher every detail. It's about developing sensitivity, a sharper inner listening, a more active connection with this subtle dimension that surrounds us. Many people only start to believe this after going through something like this. But do you really need to get to that point? What if we could learn to recognize the signs before the chaos? What if it were possible to avoid unnecessary pain, just by being more attentive to the way the invisible communicates? The truth is that angels try. They try every day. In dreams, in intuitions, in small deviations that seem random, but that completely change the outcome of the story. The problem is that we have learned to disbelieve what we feel, over-rationalizing what should be felt with the heart. But when you hear stories like Mariana's or Andre's, it's impossible not to think again. It's not about superstition. It's a reality that often escapes logic, but it holds firm because of the strength of the impact it causes, because of the clarity with which it awakens, because of the silent transformation it brings. So if you've ever experienced something similar, a dream that stopped you from going down the wrong path, an inexplicable feeling that made you stop seconds before something happened, or even a soft voice that echoed in your mind with no apparent origin, know that you're not alone. And, quite possibly, this was an intervention, a subtle care coming from a place that not everyone can see. But that is always there. Write it down. I'm on this journey too. Because when we share, it's not just our story that gains strength. It's this entire invisible network that becomes more alive, more real, more conscious. Now I want to go even deeper into this subject, because there is an essential difference between an ordinary dream and a dream that carries a spiritual message. And when you learn to identify this, everything changes. Because one of the most common questions when we talk about spiritual dreams is, how will I know if it was just a dream or a true angelic message? This doubt is legitimate. After all, our mind is full of images, memories, and desires that mix in the unconscious every night. But there is a line, albeit subtle, that separates what is just a mental reflection from what comes from a higher dimension. And when we start paying attention to the details, this difference becomes increasingly evident. The first sign is in the feeling that remains afterwards, because, unlike a common dream, which often disappears in the first minutes of the morning or dissolves into confusion, spiritual dreams leave a mark. It doesn't matter if you remember everything or just a fragment. There is something about them that touches you in a different way. It could be a deep peace, a shiver in your soul, an emotion that appears out of nowhere, or even a sudden clarity that stays with you for hours or days. Waking up with a calm heart, with unexplained tears in your eyes, or with the feeling of having been somewhere else, as if you had returned from a spiritual journey, are strong indications that there was a greater intervention there. Another point that cannot be ignored is the presence of light. And I'm not talking about just any light. In reports from people who have had this type of experience, it is common to hear descriptions such as, a light that came from nowhere, a brightness that surrounded me, but didn't hurt my eyes, a brightness that seemed to breathe with me. This light is not just a visual element, it conveys welcome, presence, the certainty that someone or something is there for a greater reason. It is almost as if, even without words, the entire dream is saying, you are being taken care of. Then there are the voices that often have no face or body, but that echo so vividly that they seem to surpass the dream itself. It is not uncommon to hear testimonies from people who report hearing their name being called, or short phrases, sometimes just one word, spoken with a tenderness that is impossible to confuse with any everyday dialogue. These voices do not demand, they guide, they do not frighten, they reassure. Their tone is calm, firm, loving, as if someone were holding your hand in the dark, telling you that everything will be okay, and, of course, symbols. This is one of the most powerful and, at the same time, most mysterious elements of these dreams. Angels often communicate through symbolic images: feathers floating in the air, wings slowly opening, mirrors breaking to reveal a new landscape, numbers repeating in sequence like 111, 444, or combinations that have a personal meaning. Each symbol carries a frequency, a code, a message that does not speak to reason, but to the heart. And the curious thing is that, even without understanding what it means at the time, you feel that there is something there, something that did not come from your mind, but that was delivered with intention. These messages usually appear at decisive moments, when you are about to make an important decision, when you are at a breaking point, or even when you are asking for answers, even if silently. Spirituality responds, not in the way we expect, but in the way we need. And often, this answer comes in a simple, direct, almost shy dream, but one that accompanies you for years, as if it were waiting for the right moment to be understood. There is also a pattern that deserves attention: repetition. When the same symbol, scenario, or message starts to appear in different dreams, at different times in life, this is not a coincidence. This is spiritual persistence. It is as if, little by little, the angel is trying to put together a puzzle with you, pointing out the right pieces, waiting for you to notice, connect, understand. And you don't have to understand everything at once. You just need to start looking at it with a different perspective. The truth is that most people have had a dream with these characteristics at least once, but because they never learned to recognize it, they ended up letting it go. They treated it as a daydream, as an exaggeration, as something unimportant. But when you start to remember the sensations, not just the images, you realize that there was something bigger there. The vibration changes. The memory doesn't disappear. And, most importantly, life seems to follow a clearer path after that dream. There is a loving intelligence behind all of this. It's not about predicting the future. It's about offering guidance in the present. It's as if the universe is saying, you are not alone. Even when everything seems dark, there is a light. Even when you don't listen, there is a presence. Even when you forget, we remember. That we is often the angels, beings who are not here to impress, but to enlighten, who ask for nothing in return, only that you listen, feel, and walk with greater awareness. So the next time you have a strange dream, even a brief one, even a strange one, ask yourself, what did I feel when I woke up? Was there peace? Was there unexpected relief? Were there tears without pain? Was there light? These are silent signs that you may have received something sacred. Even if your mind can't yet translate it. Comment here. That makes sense to me. Sometimes, recognizing is the first step to beginning to remember what the soul has never forgotten. Because angels don't just use words or feelings. They also speak through images with deep meanings, and certain symbols appear so frequently in dreams that they cannot be ignored. Speaking of which, there is something that most people don't notice right away, but that carries immense symbolic power within dreams: the visual elements that repeat themselves. Simple images, which at first glance seem random, but which have a deep spiritual meaning when analyzed with the right mindset. When angels want to warn us, protect us, or even reconnect us with something forgotten, they don't do it with long sentences or obvious explanations. They use symbols, and these symbols speak directly to the soul. This is why many people dream of feathers. For example, white feathers, floating in the air, falling slowly, sometimes landing softly on the skin. In almost all spiritual traditions, the feather represents lightness, divine presence, a subtle touch from heaven. When it appears in a dream, it usually carries a message of protection, of relief. It is as if the angel is saying, I was here. You are not alone. There does not have to be a complex scene, nor an entire narrative. Sometimes, all you see is a feather, alone, floating in the dark. But those who feel it, understand. Another recurring symbol is wings, but not like the wings in cartoons or movies. Sometimes they don't even appear completely. They can be a movement, a shadow, a light wind that lifts your hair without explanation. Some people dream of looking down from above, as if they were flying, and when they wake up, the sensation is still there, as if their body had been freed for a few moments. Wings represent transcendence, the ability to see beyond. When they appear in dreams, they almost always indicate that you are being guided along a new path, that there is a transformation underway, even if you can't see it clearly yet. And what about numbers? Many people ignore them, but numbers are very powerful spiritual codes. 111, for example, appears in dreams as a spiritual push. It represents beginning, awakening, and mental focus. It's as if it were saying, you are creating your reality. Choose your thoughts carefully. 444, on the other hand, is pure vibration of divine presence. It's the famous "We are with you." When this number appears in a dream, especially, repeatedly, it's almost always a sign that your guides are working behind the scenes in your life. Other sequences like 222, 555, or 777 also appear with different messages, each one linked to a stage of the journey. The important thing is that, when these numbers appear, the energy that accompanies them is always supportive, affirming, and confirming that you are on the right path. Now, think about bridges. How many times have you heard someone say that they dreamed about crossing a bridge? It may seem common, but spiritually, a bridge is a very strong symbol of passage. It is the connection point between two worlds, two phases, two choices. Dreaming about a bridge can indicate that you are about to leave something behind and cross over to a new phase. But the most important thing is what happens during this crossing. If the bridge is firm, illuminated.com, the dream is a sign that the new path will be stable. But if it shakes, if it is dark, if it seems fragile, it is your angel showing you that there is something that needs to be strengthened before moving on. Light, as we have already said, is also a constant element. But in dreams, it is often more than a source of clarity. It behaves as a presence. Sometimes it appears without explanation, a bright light at the end of a hallway, an aura around someone, a brightness that comes from nowhere but envelops the entire environment. This light almost always represents spiritual closeness. When it appears, it may be that the angel is very close, or that your vibration is rising to a point where contact becomes more direct. And then there are mirrors. Few people talk about this, but dreaming about mirrors can be one of the most spiritually profound experiences. The mirror in dreams is almost always an invitation to the truth. Not the truth you tell others, but the one you hide from yourself. Looking in a mirror in a dream can mean that the angel is showing you something about who you are, or who you are becoming. Sometimes the reflection is the same, but the feeling is different. Sometimes what appears there is a stronger, lighter, more awake version. And this is no coincidence. It is revelation. And finally, a symbol that appears frequently and deserves attention. Portals. Dreams about doors opening, corridors leading to other places, windows revealing unknown landscapes. These are all spiritual codes. They indicate access to new dimensions of your consciousness. They indicate that something is being revealed, that one stage of your journey is ending and another is being offered. And what defines whether you cross over or not? Your willingness to listen, to feel, to trust. This is how angels work. They don't push, they suggest, they don't force, they invite. And they do this through these elements that speak directly to the purest part of who you are. The part that remembers, even without understanding. The part that feels, even when logic tries to deny it. When you start to see these symbols with different eyes, you will realize that the messages were there all along. They were just waiting for you to start listening with your heart. Write it down. I'm paying more attention now, because sometimes, just by starting to notice the signs, everything inside us starts to change. There's something even more important about all of this. Something that involves your guardian angel's direct role in these messages during the night, and why he keeps trying even when you forget what you dreamed. By the way, if everything we've been talking about made sense to you, if at some point you felt that these signs might have something to do with what's happening in your life right now, it might help to take a look at some additional material that I've prepared with great care. It's called Reading Your Birth Angel, and is entirely aimed at those who are on this journey of spiritual self-knowledge and want to connect more directly with the personalized guidance of the angelic kingdom. This content is practical, direct, and can save you a lot of time trying to interpret on your own what dreams and signs want to show you. It's here in the description, but I might take it down in the next few days. So if you think it's valuable to you, take advantage of it while it's still available. Sometimes, a simple click can open a door that's been waiting for you for a long time. And do you know what many people still don't fully understand? That behind these subtle signs, these images that appear during the night and the sensations that insist on staying even after the dream ends, there is a constant presence, an invisible companion who walks by our side from the moment we take our first breath. The guardian angel. This name, which so often seems symbolic or just part of children's stories, actually represents one of the most real and discreet forces that act on our spiritual journey. He is there, even when we forget, even when we doubt, even when we turn our backs on everything that is invisible. And it is during sleep that this presence manifests itself most clearly, precisely because the barriers of the rational mind are lower. It is in this silence between one thought and another that the guardian angel finds space to approach, not as a screaming miracle, but as a firm whisper. He protects us from dangers that we do not even see. He changes routes without us noticing. And, in many cases, he makes us wake up with an intuition so strong, so unusual, that it seems impossible to ignore. But it is not magic. It is attunement. When you sleep, your spirit frees itself a little from the bonds of the physical body, and it is in this state of openness that communication becomes possible. There are reports of people who woke up minutes before something serious happened. People who changed their minds about a last-minute trip, or who decided not to take the car on a certain day without knowing why. These seemingly small choices completely changed the outcome. And later, when they look back, they realize that it didn't come from logic. It came from somewhere else. And if you ask these people how they knew what to do, most will tell you, I just felt that I shouldn't have done it. But what they don't realize right away is that this feeling is exactly the language of angels, a subtle way of steering you away from tragedies without having to scare you. Behind the scenes of life, the guardian angel acts as a true gatekeeper. He does not interfere with your free will, but offers alternatives. He does not force you to do anything, but leaves clues. He does not prevent you from making mistakes, but tries to show you the way before you fall. And the most beautiful thing about all this is that this presence does not go away even when you are spiritually disconnected, even in your worst moments. Even on days when everything seems meaningless, directionless, hopeless, he is still there, silent but vigilant. Because the role of the guardian angel is not only to save you from physical accidents, but also from decisions that can block your evolution, from relationships that drain your light, from paths that are not yours. And the curious thing is that the more you develop this awareness, the more communication intensifies. The guardian angel begins to appear in the details, in the music that plays at the right moment, in the thought that comes as an answer to a question, in the person who comes up with a phrase that you needed to hear. But the beginning of everything almost always happens in dreams. Because there, you can't resist. There, you feel first and interpret later. That's why so many warnings come in this format, because the angel's language doesn't pass through the noise of the world. It passes through the silence of the soul. There is a truth that can change the way you see all of this. Your angel knows you deeply, not only what you show, but also what you try to hide. He understands your pain, your failures, your desires, your most intimate doubts, and even knowing all of this, he remains. He continues to be by your side, waiting for the gaps, the openings, the small moments of listening. And when you begin to recognize this, something inside you changes. Not because you become special, but because you begin to walk with more presence, with more intuition, with more confidence in that which cannot be explained, but which can be felt. The impact of this is profound, because when you accept that you are being guided, even if discreetly, your mindset changes. You start to make decisions with more clarity, to avoid paths that no longer resonate with your essence. And most importantly, to trust more in what you feel. And this is not just faith, this is awareness. It is being awake even when everything around you seems to want to put you to sleep again. So, the next time you wake up with a strange feeling, don't ignore it. When you have an intense dream, with symbolic elements or with an emotion that stays with you throughout the day, write it down. Observe it, listen to it, because it could be your guardian angel trying to tell you, hey, I'm here, and you don't have to carry it all alone. Comment here, I feel this presence with me. Because when we recognize invisible care, something inside us finally begins to rest, and there's more, even if you don't remember the dream. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. There's a spiritual reason for forgetting, and, at the same time, clear signs that the message was delivered. There is a deep and fascinating mystery surrounding angelic dreams. A mystery that begins precisely with something that many people cannot even imagine: forgetfulness. How many times have you woken up desperately trying to remember a dream that seemed important, that carried a strong emotion, a premonition, or a different sensation, but all that came to the surface was a blur, a dense fog that erased almost everything? Perhaps you were only able to remember an isolated fragment, a color, a sound, a nameless face, or even a vague sensation that disappeared before it could be captured by the conscious mind. This does not happen by chance, nor due to a failure of your memory. There is a very subtle, almost invisible spiritual veil that separates the physical world, where we live awake, from the spiritual world, where the most delicate and powerful communications unfold, those that come in the form of angelic dreams. This veil acts as a protective filter, which erases the clear memory of dreams, but never erases the impact they have on your essence, your energy, and, above all, on your life journey. That's as if the universe knows what you're capable of handling and processing, and so as not to overwhelm your limited human mind, it covers what could be too much with a veil. Imagine if you could remember, in detail, every sign, every warning, every spiritual intervention you received during your sleep. The amount of information could confuse you, or even paralyze you. The human mind is not prepared to deal with this intense flow of spiritual messages. Memory is not the only path to true transformation. Quite the opposite. Angels work silently, behind the scenes of your consciousness, tinkering with the deepest gears of your decisions, adjusting your mentality and altering your perception without you even having any idea what's happening. Sometimes, this effect is so subtle that it seems like a simple impulse that makes you avoid a person, or that strange feeling that keeps you away from a place or situation. Other times, it's that clear and powerful intuition that appears at the exact moment you most need direction, like an invisible lighthouse guiding you through the darkness. These effects have a much deeper impact than they might seem. Even when the dream seems to have completely disappeared from your memory, the change has already taken place. That sense of liberation you sometimes feel, that inexplicable peace that invades your chest after a turbulent period, or the sudden change of course that takes you away from what no longer serves you, all of these are a direct consequence of the messages your angel sends you while you sleep. What seems like forgetfulness is, in fact, part of a larger process. A silent and invisible transformation that transcends physical vision and everyday logic. It is a delicate dance between the conscious and the unconscious, between the rational mind that wants to understand, control, and prove, and the spiritual wisdom that vibrates at a much higher frequency, the one that does not need tangible evidence to cause real change. Forgetting, in this context, is a powerful invitation to trust, to let go of control and allow the journey to unfold in its own time, at the rhythm of your soul. It is a clear sign that you are being guided, even if the explanations do not seem to make sense or your mind tries to deny the invisible dot. And here is one of the greatest revelations that this journey can bring. Angelic dreams are like seeds planted in fertile soil within you. Even if you don't remember the seed, the tree grows steadily, silently, firmly, and steadily. Even if the dream disappears from your conscious memory, its fruits appear in your life in the form of protection, signs, insights, and small miracles that help you make important decisions. True transformation happens behind the scenes of your consciousness, in that place where the visible and the invisible meet, where the hidden truth begins to reveal itself little by little, bringing light to the darkest corners of your soul. Understanding this completely changes your mindset and the way you deal with spirituality. It becomes less about what you remember or understand rationally, and much more about what you feel, about these small, internal changes that emerge without you having to decipher every detail. From that moment on, your spiritual journey gains a new rhythm, a rhythm where mystery and faith walk side by side, and where the impact of angelic messages becomes a natural and constant part of your process of personal evolution. That's why it's common for you to wake up feeling a deep peace, a lightness in your heart that you can't explain, or even a powerful intuition that seems to whisper in your ear, directing your every step without you knowing exactly how or why. It's these subtle effects, these small internal revolutions, that reveal that your angel is working silently, guiding you through the darkness so that you can find the light. Comment: I feel this transformation happening. Recognizing these small internal revolutions is the first step towards a real and profound change, which goes far beyond what the eyes can see and the mind can explain. While the human mind searches for answers and tries to understand what is happening, the heart opens to receive the next revelations that are to come, those that will bring even more clarity and transformation to your life, unraveling the mysteries that only spirituality is capable of revealing. Following this path of discoveries and internal transformations leads us to understand that connecting with the messages of angels in dreams is not something that simply happens by chance or luck. In fact, there is a deep preparation, a mental and spiritual alignment that creates a fine-tuning with the frequency of angelic interventions. It is like when a musician tunes his instrument to play the exact melody. In this case, it is the melody of your soul, which tunes into these powerful guidelines while you are sleeping, in a state where the barrier between the physical and the spiritual becomes more tenuous and permeable. And this attunement begins with small habits that, at first glance, seem simple, but can make all the difference. Having a notebook or notepad next to your bed is one of these essential practices. It may seem like an almost insignificant detail, but having a place to write down fragments of your dream, as soon as you wake up, is what keeps the connection with the messages you received alive. How many times have you tried to remember an important dream, but all that remained was a haze, a vague feeling, or even a total emptiness? This happens because the memory of the dream is ephemeral. It escapes with the speed of thought, and if it is not recorded, it is lost forever. But when you write down even a few words, symbols, scribbles, or sensations, you are sending a message to your subconscious that that content is relevant and deserves attention. This simple act can transform your relationship with dreams and expand your spiritual awareness, because it is in this space that angelic messages begin to materialize more clearly for you. Before going to sleep, another powerful ritual is to set aside a moment for prayer or a brief meditation focused on the intention of receiving guidance and protection from your angels. It doesn't have to be a complex ritual, full of formalities or difficult words. What really matters is the sincerity of your intention, humbly asking for guidance so that angelic messages come through clearly and that you can remember them, creates a direct bridge between you and the spiritual world. It is a silent invitation to let the universe and the beings of light know that you are open and receptive, ready to receive what they have to offer. This conscious connection helps to raise your energetic frequency and makes it more likely that angelic interventions will manifest in dreams in a meaningful way. When we wake up, The speed of modern life often pushes us away from the dream before it even has a chance to settle into our consciousness. Therefore, setting aside a few minutes for silence and gratitude right after waking up is another important step in this preparation. Being silent, taking a deep breath, and giving thanks, even for a vague sensation, an image, or a feeling that has remained, strengthens the presence of the angelic messages in your heart. This moment of pause helps to stabilize the spiritual impact of the dream, making it easier for your conscious mind to understand the signs and guidance that arrived the night before, creating an internal space for this information to translate into practical changes in your daily life. Furthermore, learning to pay attention to the first sensation of the day before any conscious thought arises is a valuable skill. This sensation can manifest as a deep peace, a comforting warmth in the chest, a slight restlessness that alerts you to something, or even a silent calling. It is as if this first emotion is the condensed summary of the message that the angel transmitted during sleep, a subtle signal that can direct your decisions, your attitude, and your mindset over the next few hours. Learning to listen to this initial response from your body and soul is a practical tool for aligning yourself with divine guidance and making decisions that are more aligned with your spiritual and personal journey. This set of practices creates a mindset of openness and receptivity that amplifies the impact of angelic dreams in your life. The transformation you desire is not out there, waiting for external miracles. It begins here, within you, in the way you choose to connect with this hidden truth, with these messages that come from a higher plane. Incorporating these simple habits not only improves your ability to receive divine guidance, but also strengthens your spiritual journey, giving you more clarity, security, and confidence to face everyday challenges and make decisions that can radically change your destiny. With this daily attunement, your relationship with dreams and intuitions changes completely. You stop being a mere passive spectator and become an active participant in the process of your personal and spiritual transformation. The impact of angelic messages stops being something sporadic, almost unbelievable, and becomes a constant behind the scenes of your life, where the most profound revelations happen and the most important decisions are shaped. It is in this invisible space, between the visible and the invisible, that true changes occur, where you become the protagonist of your own journey of evolution. So, comment here, I'm on this journey too. Recognizing this preparation and committing to it is the first step for the angelic messages to fulfill their role with greater clarity and intensity, transforming your life in ways you can't even imagine yet. And as this awareness grows within you, the spiritual journey continues to unfold, bringing new challenges and discoveries that expand your understanding and the depth of your connection with the divine. There is an intriguing and mysterious phenomenon that many of us have experienced, even if sometimes we don't understand its true depth or meaning. Déjà vu. Have you ever felt that strange sensation that you are reliving something that has happened before, as if time were repeating moments, conversations, or situations, creating an almost supernatural loop? This experience is not just a passing memory glitch or brain fog, it can be much more than that. Imagine that this déjà vu is, in fact, a silent attempt by your guardian angel, a subtle sign, a delicate message trying to break through the barrier of everyday life to get your attention, to alert you to something that your soul has not yet fully understood. This is a truth that remains hidden to many, but that can profoundly change the way we see the cycles of life, our choices, and the paths we take. When certain patterns start to repeat themselves, those difficulties that insist on returning, those situations that present themselves in different forms but with the same essence, the angels, with their infinite patience and unconditional love, may be trying to communicate something important to you. They know that transformation does not happen overnight, that changing your mindset takes time and requires a certain amount of internal preparation. Therefore, these angelic messages can appear in many ways, in dreams that seem to repeat themselves, in intuitions that insist on appearing, or in events that, to those who are not paying attention, may seem like mere coincidence, but which, in fact, are carefully orchestrated so that you finally awaken to this spiritual reality that is taking shape at your feet. It is common for these warnings to be repeated several times until the person is finally able to see beyond the veil of illusion. Think of angels as silent, tireless, and delicate guardians who accompany every step of your life. Even if you do not notice them, they continue to send their messages, to illuminate paths, even when you resist, when you do not understand, or even reject these guidelines. And what is even more incredible, there is no deadline for this spiritual opening. It is never too late for the heart to reveal itself, for the mind to free itself from the bonds of rationalism that often prevents us from recognizing the invisible. The difference lies in their willingness to seek the truth that is hidden beneath the layers of experiences and emotions, to look within with greater depth and sensitivity. This insistence from the angels is directly related to those decisions that you may be putting off, the changes that you know you need to make but haven't had the courage to do so yet, or even the cycles that you feel should have ended already. Often, the rational mind blocks the process, because fear, Pride or insecurity create barriers that make it difficult to accept the new. It is at this moment that the signs begin to repeat themselves. Déjà vu appears stronger. Dreams become more vivid and recurrent. Feelings of restlessness or discomfort increase. These are the angelic reminders working silently to break down this internal resistance, so that you do not remain stuck in patterns that only delay your growth and evolution. And this is the key to true transformation, the awakening of consciousness. When you understand that déjà vu and repetitions are not mere accidents of the mind, but part of a journey guided by much greater forces, your mindset begins to expand. You stop seeing these situations as mere obstacles or repeated mistakes, and start seeing them as opportunities, as invitations to make choices that are more aligned with your greater purpose. This shift in perception has an impact far deeper than a passing sensation. It can redefine the course of your life, reveal the hidden depths of your destiny, and enhance your ability to interpret the messages that the universe and the angels so carefully send you. It is essential to remember that, even when you cannot understand the warning immediately, the effects are already in action. The transformation happens in the small details, in the subtle adjustments you make in your view of the world, in the way you begin to feel and react differently to situations. This is the essence of the spiritual journey, learning to recognize the signs that indicate that a new stage is about to begin, that the time has come to change course, to leave behind what no longer serves you, and to make room for the revelations and changes that are yet to come. As you become more attentive and receptive, you realize that déjà vu is no longer a frightening enigma, but an ally, a way in which your angel insists on calling you to transformation. This reinforces the idea that spiritual forces are present and active, that there is immense care being dedicated to your evolution. This awareness changes the way you view your own life. Your mindset becomes stronger, and you gain confidence to navigate decisions and challenges, knowing that you are not alone on this journey. Comment: that makes sense to me, because recognizing this possibility is opening the doors so that what previously seemed confusing, repetitive, and even frustrating starts to make sense and contribute to your growth and clarity. And with this opening, emerging, other layers of mystery and revelation begin to emerge, further deepening your journey of self-knowledge and spiritual transformation. There is a profound, almost magical beauty, even invisible to the eyes that only see what is tangible, in the way angels operate. Between the lines of our existence, they do not shout, they do not impose their will, nor do they force changes. On the contrary, they act as a gentle touch on the soul, a delicate whisper, a dim light that silently opens doors, allowing us to walk through them only when we are truly ready. This subtle way of acting is the essence of their work, always respecting our time, our journey, our freedom of choice. Sometimes, these angelic invitations come in the form of dreams that soon disappear from memory, as if they were kept in a secret drawer of the mind. Or they appear in the form of deep intuitions, those inexplicable sensations that arise out of nowhere, coming from a place that is beyond logic and reason. It is precisely in this mysterious space, where the rational mind meets the invisible, that the true power of transformation resides, the one that changes not only the course of external events, but also the way we see ourselves and the world around us. Think for a moment, have you ever stopped to consider that an unexpected deliverance, a twist of luck that saved you from a difficult situation, an accident avoided by tiny details that we don't even understand, could have been the silent response to a dream that you couldn't remember? Maybe it was an intervention by your guardian angel, a discreet, invisible action that happened behind the scenes of your life, far from your eyes and your momentary awareness, protecting you without it being necessary to understand at that moment the whys or the reasons. This simple possibility, when understood, has the power to radically change the way we observe our daily lives. It begins to reveal a hidden truth, a game of subtle forces that govern our reality and that, even when invisible, make perfect sense, as if all the pieces of a huge puzzle began to fit together, revealing a bigger picture, far beyond what we can perceive in our daily lives. It is precisely there, at this intersection between the visible and the invisible, that the real and transformative, the impact of these spiritual messages resides. They do not simply pass through our minds superficially, but act on deep levels, stirring our mentality, adjusting decisions and altering paths, even when we are not fully aware of it. It is a delicate game between light and shadow, between what we can control and what we need to surrender to the natural flow of the universe. The journey you are on is made up of small movements, of silent revolutions within you, subtle adjustments that we often only notice as time goes by, but which have an immense impact on your growth and your personal and spiritual evolution. So, if you have ever had this experience, a mysterious dream that you don't remember clearly, a strong intuition that seemed to save you from something, or that déjà vu that keeps repeating itself and seems to carry an important message, I want to invite you to open your heart and share your story here in the comments. Your experience may be the light that someone else needs to understand that they are not alone on this journey, that there is a greater and loving force taking care of every detail of their life. even when everything seems confusing or meaningless. The exchange of these stories creates an invisible but powerful network that connects hearts and minds in a common search for truth, growth, and transformation. And more than that, if this video spoke to you in any way, consider sharing these words with someone who might need to hear this message today, because angels act in silent, discreet ways, but they never stop acting. They are always present, shaping the course of our lives, guiding our steps, even when everything around us seems chaotic or uncertain. The impact of these silent actions is immense, and with each small awakening, with each fragment of consciousness that is illuminated, our reality begins to transform from the inside out, at levels that we cannot always perceive immediately, but that build the foundation for real and lasting changes. Comment, that makes sense to me, because recognizing this invisible force that acts in our lives is the first step to living in a more aligned, connected, and fulfilled way. It means embracing a new mindset, which understands that profound transformation does not only happen in the external world, but in the way we relate to the messages and signs that the universe sends us daily, often through silent and subtle channels. As this understanding begins to take hold within you, other layers of the mystery begin to reveal themselves, drawing more clearly the backstage of this spiritual journey that never ceases to expand. It is a continuous process, an evolution that happens step by step, and that invites us to be increasingly attentive, receptive, and open to the revelations that arise along the way. Understanding this dynamic transforms the way we deal with what seemed like coincidence or chance, and begins to place each experience in a larger context, where even moments of confusion or doubt have a purpose. The hidden truth begins to manifest itself, and what seemed inexplicable becomes a fundamental part of your story of growth and overcoming. This is how the invisible becomes visible. When you accept that there is something beyond what meets the eye, something that acts silently so that you can go through difficult times with more ease, with the feeling that you are being supported and guided even in moments when it seems that everything is out of your control. This perspective transforms your mindset and strengthens your ability to make decisions more clearly, knowing that, even in the face of uncertainty, there is a spiritual support network working to help you choose the paths that are most aligned with your greater purpose. And in this connection, you realize that you are not alone, that your journey is accompanied by loving presences that care for your well-being and your evolution. With each dream, each intuition, each sign, these invisible guides are sending you light and protection, silently shaping the path so that you can flourish in your truest essence. This awareness expands your outlook on life, bringing a sense of peace and security even in the face of storms. You begin to understand that transformation doesn't have to be dramatic, but can be a series of small adjustments, a gradual awakening to the truth that has always been within you, but which is now beginning to reveal itself with greater intensity. So, allow yourself to trust more, make space for this energy that works silently in your life, and embrace the small changes that will take you to a higher state of consciousness and fulfillment. This is the true journey of the soul, where the impact of angelic messages manifests itself not only in dreams or intuitions, but in the way you choose to live, feel, and act each day, with more awareness, courage, and love. Comment, I'm on this journey too, because recognizing that this transformation happens behind the scenes in your life is what will allow you to walk with more confidence, knowing that with each step, even the silent ones, you are closer to your evolution. And it is with this feeling of connection and renewal that other revelations begin to emerge, bringing new light to your journey and deepening your understanding of the mysteries surrounding angelic dreams and the actions of your spiritual guides. If you've come this far, it's because you're truly looking for something beyond what meets the eye, a deeper connection with what moves your soul, and that's incredibly valuable. If this content has brought you clarity or awakened something within you, subscribe to the channel to continue receiving these messages that go straight to the point, without beating around the bush, just truth and transformation for your daily life. Leave a comment here saying I'm with you until the end, because it's great to know that we're together on this journey, growing and learning side by side. Oh, and if you felt this connection that we built throughout the video, a like is always a sign that it makes sense, that it's worth continuing to bring you this type of content. There's a video right here that complements this exact subject. Click and stay with me there, because there's a lot of good stuff coming to deepen this journey even further. Let's go together.